Alright guys, we're here at Little Rock Express, Cape Girardeau. The engine's being fueled and serviced right now. But I walked up to a gentleman here. He chased the train, and what was your name again?
David Hensey.
David Hensey.
Cape Girardeau.
Cape Girardeau. You're from Cape Girardeau?
From Cape. I finally wound up here after leaving Chester.
Alright, well, how did your day go today? How did you encounter 844?
I saw her coming under the bridge at Chester. I got a good shot there when she came by. Unfortunately, I didn't pay attention to the schedule. We thought you were going to stop where we stopped in 1984 to fuel and service the water tender. But you stopped at the old depot. But I got two pictures there. So then I got on my cycle, got down on the truck bypass like I never got out of Chester. My plan was to go to Gorham. I got to Gorham, when I crossed the track at Gorham, I could see you coming down at Jacob. So I got all set up. Just as I got my camera turned on, it went blank. My battery went foul.
Battery died. Boy, is that not a classic story, you know? So what did you do?
I packed everything up. I got on my cycle, I highballed to Cape, to Walmart, got me batteries, went down, instead of going to Rockview Quarry, I went to Scott City because I thought there was a possibility they might put a switcher on the rear end as a pilot.
Oh yeah.
Well, as it turned out, you guys were running late, so I had plenty of time to wait. I got some good shots of you when you came by Flossie's Crossing, Oak Street Crossing. You weren't supposed to stop. Well, I got on my motorcycle, and I got down there the next block, and here you were stopped. And I saw the guys on the ground. I said, they got an overheated bearing or something. So I stopped, got off the bike, got my camera out, and I went up and talked to the head brakeman who got off at quarry, and he explained that I said, oh, you're probably meeting a real high priority stack train. He said, no, it was a dog.
A dog?
A dog, mind you, a northbound dog. So he passed them, and I got a good shot of her when she pulled out, smoke blowing. And I stayed on the bridge, the overpass there at Rockview. Got some real good shots of you, long distance shots. When you came off the interlocking and then started shoving up the BNSF. After that, I paced you all the way up the Cape, came in, and I was here waiting on you guys when you backed in. It's been a hot day, but it's been an enjoyable day for me.
What did you think when they announced the Little Rock Express won and it's going to be coming this way?
I think it's highly admirable that UP took the extra effort. See, when they first announced Cape as being a stop, everybody assumed you were going to cut off at Lindenwood Yard and come down the river subdivision on the BNSF.
Right.
Well, then when I got the schedule off the internet, it said Chester, Gorham, Ware, Wolf Lake. Well, then the first thought, well, if he's coming to Cape, there's only one way he can get here. He's going to go through Scott City, through Quarry, shove into the BNSF through the interlocking and back into Cape, which is what happened. I think it speaks highly of the UP that they were willing to do that sort of thing, to shove this train from Rockview all the way up to Cape for something like this. It's not even on their line. No,
it's not. We had two BNSF pilots bring this train in that rode on the back of the platform after we got down there and made that switch.
To me, that really impressed me that you guys thought so much of stopping at Cape that you're willing to take that extra move. And like I said, I'm off Monday, so I'm going to be here when you leave Monday morning, and I'm going to follow you guys back to Rockview, down to Dexter, and maybe all the way to Poplar Bluff.
All right, now that's dedication here.
Before we go, let me explain that. I had previous experience with 8444, 1984 at the World's Fair. John Bromley was the PR man at Omaha, and I was working for the Bulletin Journal in Cape. And I'd worked with John on several stories with the UP. By this time, you guys were running the coal train through Cape. And John called me one day and said, hey, how'd you like to... I'd done a story before. I talked to John. He'd sent me stuff on the trip. So he calls me and says, how'd you like to ride 8444 from St. Louis to wherever?
Wow.
I like to paddle on my chair.
All right.
So we got up. There was a party, about 5 of us. We went to St. Louis to Kirkwood. We got on the train at Kirkwood. I got 3 sheets of black and white prints. We stopped briefly in downtown. We crossed the McArthur Bridge, came on down the Illinois side. I shot some color pictures at Chester, which I'll bring tomorrow when I come back down.
All right.
I enjoyed every bit of it. We stopped at Scott City for just a second, then we went on down to Dexter, and I left 8444 at Poplar Bluff. I saw her again at the World's Fair that summer in New Orleans. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I wrote John Lennon later on. I said, I really appreciate it. You're talking to a guy who's been a dying hard, wanted to work on the railroad for years, and this is the next best thing.
Next best thing.
And it was just a real enjoyable time with 8440. Prior to that, like I said, I had been in the Air Force in 1960, and first I rode the Portland Rose from Santa City to Ogden via Cheyenne. When I came home on leave from Ogden, I rode the city of St. Louis from Ogden to St. Louis. Went back on the city of St. Louis. When I made my move to England, I rode first class on the city of St. Louis, from Ogden to St. Louis, and then Penn, Texas, and the Pennsylvania. So my experience with the Pennsylvania and the Union Pacific Passenger Service
go way back,
and it was very pleasant.
Good.
I had a reserved seat chair car, and you know what those were like.
Right.
As a matter of fact, years ago they had practically the whole contest of the city of St. Louis spotted at Union Station one year, and I got pictures of some of those cars I actually rode in. And I would get on that train in Ogden at 9, 10 in the morning. By the time we got out of Weaver Canyon, I was up in the dome car, and I usually was there all day long until dark. We get into Denver around dark. They take off a diner, and through the night, I can remember a couple stops across Kansas, but we arrived in St. Louis, Kansas City the next morning. We swapped our UP engines for Wabash, and then we went across Missouri on the Wabash, got into St. Louis around about 2:30 in the afternoon. And like I said, I have a lot of fond memories, good experiences with the Union Pacific.
All right. Give me your name again and where you're from.
David Henty from Cape Girardeau, and if you know John Bromley, or whoever runs the museum now, I also work with him.
John Bromley does.
John's the one at the museum.
Right.
The other one is still PR over at Omaha.
Mark Davis.
Mark Davis. I work with both those guys at the paper. If you see John, you tell him.
Mark's right over there.
Which one's Mark?
He's right over there in the hat. He's walking right up to the...
I gotta see Mark.
Go see him.
But anyway, tell John I said hi. If I ever get out to Omaha, I want to... He's in Omaha, isn't he? Or Cheyenne?
Omaha.
He's at the museum.
Yeah.
I want to see him at the museum. But tell John I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
I know it's kind of long, but...
That's all right. There's things called editing, you know? So, hey, appreciate your input.
Which one's Mark?
All right, hold on, just let me sign off here. Okay, guys, there you go, Rail Fan. He chased it, he saw it, you heard his story. Leave a comment.